Hello, seniors. Hope you had a good senior trip, and we are ready to get right back into class now with Lesson 27, Christ's Conflicts with the Pharisees. So anyway, I hope you have your textbook. If you do, go ahead and turn to page 201, and we'll get right into it. By way of review, let's recap quickly Lesson 26. We haven't had class in seemingly forever. So just hitting the highlights of Lesson 26. Lesson 26 probably occurs the Monday of the Passion Week, whereas Lesson 27 deals with Tuesday. So on Monday, Christ cursed the fig tree. He drove the money changers from the temple. Remember, that was the second time that Jesus did that. The Greeks requested to see Jesus. These are most likely genuine followers of the Lord who are Gentiles. Then we have Christ's words about his approaching crucifixion, what's going to happen at the end of that week, and the people's response to his message. So following those events, Mark 11:19 tells us that Jesus goes out of Jerusalem. He spends the night. We're not sure specifically where, but the next day, which is Tuesday, he comes back into the city. And on this Tuesday, he is faced with quite a few questions, 4 test questions to be exact, that the Gospels record for us. And with these 4 questions, I want us to remember that the Pharisees are not genuinely looking for answers to these questions because they want to know. What they are doing here is they are trying to trip Jesus up over his words to give an excuse to arrest him and crucify him. That's what they are looking to do. So it's important that we remember this when we go through these questions. And I don't know about you, but I don't like to be peppered with questions constantly from people. I get this sometimes in elementary PE class where they're constantly asking me questions and questions. Some questions aren't relevant, and that can be frustrating. And sometimes I don't always react with the patience and grace that I need to. And here with Jesus, even though they're trying to trip him up, he continues to have a perfect answer for each question, and he responds with dignity and grace to each one. So when Christ arrived in the city, he begins teaching in the temple, and the Pharisees interrupted him at various times that day and asked him the 4 test questions. So the first question, number 1, they question Christ's authority. Go ahead and turn to Matthew 21, verses 23 through 27. And this would be the point where I'd ask one of you to read here, but unfortunately I can't do that, so I'm going to have to read myself. Matthew 21, verse 23 says, "And when he was come into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came unto him as he was teaching, and said, By what authority doest thou these things? And who gave thee this authority?" Sounds like a familiar question, right? It's almost like the question, show us a sign, that they continue to ask. In this case, they're asking, how do you have authority to do these things? Verse 24, "And Jesus answered and said unto them, I also will ask you one thing, which if ye tell me, I in likewise will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, whence was it, from heaven or of men? And they reasoned within themselves, saying, If we shall say from heaven, he will say unto us, Why did ye not then believe him? But if we shall say of men, we fear the people, for all hold John as a prophet. And they answered Jesus and said, We cannot tell. And he said unto them, Neither tell I you by what authority I do these things." This was a lose-lose situation for the Pharisees. If they said that John the Baptist was a true prophet, if he was from heaven, Jesus would say, well, why didn't you believe? Why didn't you believe what he had to say? If they said, no, he was from men, the people would be upset because the people held John the Baptist in high respect. So that hence their answer, well, we can't tell. And then Jesus responds with, well, I'm not going to tell you by what authority I do these things. Even though it was obvious by what authority Jesus did these things, by his previous miracles and by the things that he said. So number 1, Christ's authority. Number 2, we have Christ and taxes. Flip over to Luke 20, verses 19 through 26. I was at a grocery store a few weeks ago, and there was a little kid saving up money to buy something. And it was like $20. I don't remember the cost exactly. And his mom said, well, don't forget about the taxes. He said, Mom, what's tax? And she turned and looked at me and said, how do I explain tax to a 8-year-old? I forget how old he was. And I said, well, it's something that the government tells us to pay that we don't like to pay, which I think in a lot of respects, that's true. We don't like to pay taxes. And here they're trying to trick Jesus with the tax question. Luke 20, verse 19, and the chief priests and the scribes the same hour sought to lay hands on him, and they feared the people. They were afraid of what people would do. For they perceived that he had spoken this parable against them. And they watched him and sent forth spies, which should feign themselves just men. So they were trying to fake him, so to speak, that they might take hold of his words, that so they might deliver him unto the power and authority of the governor. And they asked him, saying, Master, we know that thou sayest and teachest rightly, neither acceptest thou the person of any, but teachest the way of God truly. Is it lawful for us to give tribute unto Caesar, or no? But he perceived their craftiness, and said unto them, Why tempt ye me? Show me a penny, whose image and superscription hath it? They answered and said, Caesar's. And he said unto them, Render therefore unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things which be God's. And they could not take hold of his words before the people, and they marveled at his answer and held their peace. Jesus, of course, immediately knew who they were and what they were trying to do. He knew that if he had said that they should not pay their taxes to the Romans, they would accuse him of treason and take him to Pilate. If he said yes, he would offend the common people who wanted to be freed from the Roman bondage and the burden of the taxes. So he has a perfect answer. Give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, give to God the things that are God's. So once more, the Pharisees were left empty, having failed to trap him, and they marveled. They were amazed at his answer. That leads us to the third question. Christ and the resurrection. This is the Pharisees. So go back to Luke 20, starting in verse 27. Or the Sadducees, rather. I think I misspoke and said Pharisees. This is the Sadducees. Luke 20, verse 27. Then came to him certain of the Sadducees, which deny that there is any resurrection. And they asked him, saying, Master, Moses wrote unto us, if any man's brother die, having a wife, and he die without children, that his brother should take his wife, and raise up seed unto his brother. There were therefore 7 brethren, and the first took a wife, and died without children, and the second took her to wife, and he died childless. And the third took her, and in like manner the 7 also, and they left no children, and died. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife of them is she? For 7 had her to wife. So they're thinking, now we've got him. How is he going to answer this question? What a ridiculous question. These are from people that don't even believe the resurrection. Verse 34, and Jesus answering said unto them, the children of this world marry and are given in marriage, but they which shall be accounted worthy to obtain that world and the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. Neither can they die any more, for they are equal unto the angels and are the children of God, being the children of the resurrection. Now that the dead are raised, even Moses showed at the bush, when he calleth the Lord the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. For he is not a God of the dead, but of the living, for all live unto him. Remember what God said. I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead. He's the God of the living. And in the resurrection, there is no marriage, and Christ makes that clear. So again, Christ has a perfect answer. He asked them, if God is the God of dead people, certainly not. Then Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob must still be alive. He's the God of the living. Fourth, Christ and the commandments. Mark 12, 28 through 34. Go ahead and turn over there, please. There's this lawyer that was sent by the Pharisees and asked Christ this question. This was a question that was often discussed in the schools of the rabbis. Mark 12, starting in verse 28, says, and one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, and perceiving that he had answered them well, asked him, which is the first commandment of all? And Jesus answered him, the first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. And the scribe said unto him, Well, master, thou hast searched the truth, for there is one God, and there is none other but he. This was a question that was often discussed. Some people said that the commandment relating to the Sabbath was the greatest command of all. Other people set the highest value on the laws relating to sacrifices. So what would you have answered? Oh, hey, what's the greatest commandment? Well, the Lord again met the test, stating that the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart. And then he offered a second commandment, to love our neighbors as ourselves. Once more, Christ had defeated the Pharisees. He had given the perfect answer. They could not argue with his doctrine. So here with these four questions, Christ's authority, Christ in taxes, Christ in the resurrection, and Christ in the commandments, he answers everything perfectly. And no one can argue with what Jesus says. And after this, Jesus goes on the initiative. And we'll pick up with this in our next video.